आपको अभी आज मैच है कि अपना काफी
साइंस का वॉल्यूम वाला मैं काफी नहीं बंद रखना पूरी वो दिक्कत
फर्स्ट वॉल्यूम में बायोलॉजी एंड केमिस्ट्री मोस्ट पार्ट है साइंस में फिजिक्स वाला है जो आज नहीं है
वो क्या फिजिक्स नहीं पढ़ रहा
अरे बात में देख लो
हां बायो है
मेडिकल टेंशन हो रहे हैं सच्ची में अपने स्कूल का कोई लड़का है जरा कस्टम से इधर आपका लोकेशन
स्मिथ पे तेरी बात सुन रहा है जितना
एक ऊंचा है फिटनेस पे आ रहा है क्या क्या आज मेरे को लेवल ऑलरेडी क्लियर है इसका कोऑर्डिनेट मिलेगा मैं कोऑर्डिनेट समझ नहीं
मैथ्स एक्स्ट्रा प्रैक्टिस सेक्शन में नाम लिखेंगे
इसके बाद हम अटेंड करना है इसमें हम बस
वो दे देते हैं वो तो क्लास में बुक नहीं है ना वो क्लास में दे देते हैं अबे बुक लिखेंगे तो हाँ वो बस मेरी पूरा सबमिट किया बोलता है इन प्रोसेस है बोलता है इन प्रोसेस पर डाल दो हमारे पढ़ने लेक्चर चलो हम कंप्लीट कर देंगे इंग्लिश भी कंप्लीट करेंगे क्या आइए मैंने पूरे 23 समझ
ये जो मान उसको बोलना पड़ेगा
बोले आ गया था मैं बोल मेरा भी नहीं हुआ
मेरा भी नहीं
हो गया है 10 का हो गया तो मैं बोलूंगा अभी ये ना नेक्स्ट टाइम याद रखिएगा मेरा 10 का हो गया मैंने 23 सर को बोले मेरा बहुत कंप्लीट करने हाँ से कंप्लीट किया है ज्यादा
उसको पूछना सर को
वैसे आप अभी क्या कर रहे हो एक्स्ट्रा लेक्चर के लिए कॉल कर रहे हो हां क्या आपका बात है उसकी कुछ नहीं है क्योंकि मैंने एक्स्ट्रा और कुछ नहीं आता और उसका 9 का आज सुबह में मुझे सर कैसे और next week it's not nice to be studying like that. अरे क्या मतलब मॉनिटरिंग करना बोले ये बंदा बस नाम लिख रहा है तू पहले से नाम लिख फिर नाम मैंने तो चुप फिर तू मना शांत कराना ठीक है तो वाईफाई चेक अरे
लिटिल को लगा हां दो लोकल मस्त नीचे ये कुछ चाहिए है स्मिता अच्छी है तो देखो स्मिता अच्छी है और उसका नंबर लेना
मेरे पास है
अरे वो मिलेगा बाजू के पास में
बनने हो
अरे
अजूना रोज चलिए
ये दो नंबर आता है शेप
Hello, this is the new girl. Her name is.
Hi, Trisha. मैं जाके नहीं पता क्या है ये मुझे भी साथ में ये मुझे में कनेक्ट करके उससे मैं तो ये बैठ जाऊंगा सितारी ये आगे सितारी आजा ये ऊपर हो जल्दी जल्दी भाई सितारी है बोलिए कौन है
मतलब मैं इसका है ना साइंस के लिए नहीं सोच रही मैं सिर्फ फिजिक्स और मैथ्स की बात कर रही हूँ मतलब मैं उससे ना मैथ्स में ऑलमोस्ट पूरा बुक
दो लोका नहीं चले देखो
बस ये साथ
रिएक्शन
बोलिए वन
एक्सेंट का वो चल रहा है वो मेरे क्लास में
नहीं आनी नहीं चाहिए एक और पकड़ा देती है
ये सुनना मैं आपको होता है एक्सपेरिमेंट स्टार्ट करें नहीं है अरे बीबी में क्या है
सामने वाले लोग बात जानवर जैसे भटक रहे हैं
ये आज मिले क्वेश्चन नहीं नहीं हो गया ये चीज एक भाई रुचा कौन है भाई रुचा हमारे साथ चल रहा है भाई चॉप करते रहते हैं अरे सुनना नहीं बहुत बड़ा बात करेगा अल्लाह बस अल्लाह ऐसा सीएससी को छोड़ देगा मेरे घर के स्कूल के साइंस का पेपर लगे मैं जल्दी चालू कर जल्दी चालू कर यार
उधर कर भाई ठीक है हां ये चाबी साड़ी नहीं होता अरे जाना मोड दिखा
ये जीरो से करना
जब बोला नहीं
भाई यार किसी ने गलत टाइम पे एक बार पकड़ा गया
वो पता थी क्लास
जिसको भाई अब तो और कम चाहिए 5 मिनट कैसे टीचर का साइड ये तो लेडी का उधर से एक मॉडल से लगा है देखो को
How are you? As far as you are not there, you keep signing. After you sign, you have to give it to her. Her name probably will not be there. You have to write your name and sign. What shifted today?
What are there?
Black gentleman for napkins.
What are we doing? Dabari has asked you to complete some few questions. You have completed with some few questions and connective tissues. Now, animal tissue we are done. No? Animal tissues we are doing. What are the types?
Fluid CT, blood, white blood cells, and platelets. Yes.
So we are doing connective tissues.
Yes.
No? Nervous tissues we have finished.
Yes.
Nervous tissues we have finished.
Yes.
Vascular tissues we have finished.
Yes.
And epithelial we have not finished. No. So connective tissues, which are the types we have done? Keep telling me. Connective tissues, which are the types we have done?
Connective tissues proper alveolar CT, adipose CT, fibrous CT, and
Connective tissues, that is, we are not supposed to read it as CTs.
connective tissues and fluid connective tissues.
So areolar adipose we have finished. Fluid connective tissues we have finished. Skeletal connective tissues, bone cartilage we have finished. Bone cartilage we have finished. Fibrous connective tissues. Fibrous tendon ligament into tendon. So that means only fluid connective tissue lymph is here. Blood I think we have done.
Blood.
Only lymph is here. No? Connective tissue, fluid connective tissue, only lymph is here.
Yes.
Tissues is it done in your school?
Fundamental unit of life. Cell division also.
You are still in history.
Yes, my master.
Mitosis, meiosis is going on.
Mitosis is going on.
Yes.
Mitosis, meiosis, they are teaching it.
No, explanation is done. Now we are doing revision for August 8th.
Cell division. Where is cell division in your syllabus?
Yes, ma'am.
Cell division.
Yes.
In which chapter?
Mitosis, meiosis, chromosomes.
Only the concept of DNA and genes is here.
I mean, NCERT textbook, it's ISS and
One question got the next year. Who has the textbook? Nobody has. Great students. Nobody has the textbook. So I want to see how much of mitosis and meiosis is there.
only one month for you.
This is a basic concept. So that after the tissues, because that part we have not done. Cell organelles, functions, parts, functions, all these the different types of cells, organisms, all these we have finished. The concept of cell division, that is added to that we have not done yet. So that we will see later. Once we are done with the structure tissues, since we are doing tissues. So for now, for tissues, go and ask for the textbook. That he will come to take the attendance. It's okay. He will come, then I ask him to take the textbook. Connective tissues. So we are left with only the fluid connective tissues. Let us complete this. Fluid connective tissues. Now, for the concept of connective tissues, actually fluid connective tissues we already started the other day. Fluid connective tissues, what is it? What is the primary fluid connective tissues? Blood. And what did we study? Blood. What are the components of blood? What are the two parts? One is plasma and cells. What are the two components? These are the two components. Blood is made up of plasma and cells. Plasma, what did we learn? What is plasma? That is the liquid part of blood. And it is made up of the water. It is made up of water, variety of salts and proteins. Various different type of hormones are dissolved in it, and cells are suspended. Okay, so that is plasma. But now that I say cells suspended, which are the cells? The three types of cells. Which are the three types of cells? We have three types of RBCs, WBCs, platelets. RBCs refer to red blood cells. White blood cells for WBCs and platelets. RBCs, what is the function of RBC?
Transport of O2 and CO2.
Contains hemoglobin, and since it contains hemoglobin, it can bind with oxygen carbon dioxide and helps in the transport of oxygen and carbon dioxide. That is the job of RBC. What does WBC do? What does WBC do? WBC will always help in defense. WBCs are always responsible for killing germs, pathogens, releasing special chemical substances which can give us immunity, etc. So WBCs are always known to constantly help in developing immunity in our body, and even though the disease germs have entered to kill the disease germs and protect us, prevent us from suffering from diseases. Third is platelets. So when we talk about platelets, what is the job? Platelets always help in clotting of the blood. Platelets always help in clotting of the blood whenever we suffer from a heart, bone injury, etc. So this is the primary body fluid, but apart from blood, we are also to understand the secondary body fluid that we have, which is formed from the blood itself, known as lymph. What is lymph? What is its composition? How is it different from the blood? That is what we have to study now. So, first of all, I am talking about a blood vessel. To understand that how is lymph formed, I would talk about a blood vessel, and in this blood vessel, the blood is constantly moving here. The blood is constantly flowing, and as the blood is constantly flowing, certain type of substances. Now, certain type of substances, I would say, certain type of substances actually mean the liquid part of the blood starts oozing up. So, what am I saying? That this is a blood vessel. Which blood vessel I am drawing? I am drawing a blood capillary. I am drawing a blood capillary. Now, this blood capillary is a tube-like structure through which the blood flows in our body, and the wall of the blood capillary, the wall of this tube-like structure has got small pores, holes, small pores are there, small openings are there. And through these openings, when the blood is rushing at a high pressure, some of these plasma, some of the liquid components of the blood. What is the liquid component of the blood? The plasma. So some of these plasma, they would start leaking through the pores, through the openings, and they would run over the tissues. Surrounding the blood capillary, we have the tissue. So what is this? What is the fate of these liquid substances? The fate of these liquid substances, they will just keep flowing over the tissues. And what is this fluid now known as? This fluid is now known as the tissue fluid, since it is directly in contact with the tissues. I'm saying this liquid part of the blood, remember, is not red in color because now that the substances, the liquid part of the blood is oozing out, along with this plasma, few cells may be there, but the cells are always WBCs, never RBCs. Because WBCs can change shapes, RBCs cannot. So RBCs basically get stuck in those openings. They cannot come out. But WBCs, if you remember, I already told about one property of the WBCs. They behave like an amoeba. They can stretch, they can change their shape. So that's the reason. Through these small openings, the WBCs can come out, ooze and come out by changing their shapes. Now, when I talk about this fluid, what will happen to this fluid? Will it accumulate over the tissues for a long period of time? No, they will not accumulate over these tissues for a long period of time, but they will enter into another set of tubes which are just parallel to these blood vessels. And what are those set of tubes now present? What are those set of tubes now called? Which are always parallelly arranged around the blood vessels. This set of tubes, which are always parallelly arranged, this set of tubes are known as the lymph vessels. This set of tubes known as lymph vessels are always parallel to the blood vessels in different parts of our body. I talk about the hands, the shoulder, the legs, the neck region. In all these parts of our body, wherever the blood vessels are there, these lymph vessels are always parallel in the form of a network. So what is this vessel containing? It is actually containing the fluid, and this fluid, what is the name of this fluid? The name of this fluid is the lymph. So this fluid starts entering now into these vessels. This fluid now starts entering into these vessels. And this fluid, why do we say it is colorless? Because it is actually not containing RBCs, and we always know RBC is responsible for the color of the blood. The red color of the blood is because of the RBC, because of the hemoglobin in the RBC. Then this lymph, now that I understand that these vessels are filled with this colorless fluid, then what will happen to these vessels? What will happen to this fluid now? This fluid will be flowing in another set of tubes like this, known as the lymph vessels, as I said. And these lymph vessels will again go and unite with a vein. These lymph vessels always go and unite with a vein. So what is present in the vein? In the vein, blood is present. What is present there? Here in the vein, always we know blood is present. And what is the vein doing? The vein is always carrying the blood. The vein is always carrying the blood towards the heart. The vein always carries the blood towards the heart. The vein would always carry the blood from different parts of the body, the impure blood, and take it towards the heart. So this lymph which is colorless, is it formed from the blood? Yes, it is formed from the blood, and every time it goes and mixes with the blood in a vein. Always goes and mixes with the blood in a vein, and then again it will follow towards the heart. So this capillaries, the lymph capillaries, where are they present? They are also present deep inside our body tissues. Supplying nutrients, supplying a small amount of oxygen. This lymph, what are some of the properties I told you just now? The lymph is colorless because it does not contain RBCs, hemoglobin. The lymph is formed from the blood. The lymph is circulating in lymph vessels. And if I talk about the blood, which is constantly pumped out from the heart, how is the blood constantly flowing? The blood is constantly flowing because of the contraction of the heart. The heart is acting as a pumping organ. But now, if I talk about the lymph, is there any pumping organ surrounding the lymph that which can always allow the lymph to constantly flow or set up pressure or a force on the fluid so that the fluid can move? No, there are actually no such pumping organ directly associated with the lymphatic vessels. then how does the lymph constantly keep moving? Because the lymph should move. Otherwise, if the lymph remains stagnant in certain parts, then certain part of our body will start getting swollen. Textbook then, you see there? Textbook here? So now when we are talking about this, so I said that this lymph, if it remains stagnant in any part of our body, what will happen? Certain parts of our body will start getting swollen. But that does not happen because the lymph vessels are drained and then they go and find a way and bridge the vein and they go to come out back again. But then, how would the lymph constantly move? From where does it get the force? It gets the force from the surrounding muscles and the tissues. So surrounding the lymphatic channels also, what are they? Surrounding the lymphatic channels also there are adequate number of tissues and muscles. So these body move, or whenever we are moving our body, these tissues are constantly undergoing the process of contraction and relaxation. They undergo the process of contraction and relaxation, and that is what is allowing the lymph to move. So what are the points of differences we have learned just now? That if I talk about the lymph and the blood, the first thing to understand about the composition, second is to know about the color, third is to know about in what type of tube-like structures are they to grow, and fourth is to know about how is the pressure generated that the blood flows and the lymph flows. So these are some of the major fine differences. We'll have to write this down. But first of all, we try understanding that what is this lymph doing in our body? What is the function? What are some of the functions of the lymph? The lymph performs certain functions, at least 3 to 4 functions you are supposed to remember about the lymph. What are some of the most common functions of the lymph to understand? Some of the most common functions is, now that I have been talking about this particular function, what is this particular function? I am saying the excess fluid is there and this excess fluid gets absorbed by these tubes. This is what we talk about as drainage functions. Drainage. What is the meaning of drainage? This excess fluid which was over the tissues are absorbed by the lymphatic vessels. Otherwise, there would have been accumulation of the fluid on the tissues and parts of our body would have started getting bloated. The bloating of the tissues or parts of our body does not happen because every now and then this process is happening in our body. But only because these tubes are draining all of it, absorbing all of it and diverting it in another direction. They're absorbing all of it and diverting it in another direction. This is what is known as the drainage function of the lymph. So what is the first function we understand? The drainage function. What is the next? What is the composition of the lymph? I say again, the lymph is formed from the blood. And what is the composition of the lymph? The lymph is made up of plasma basically. And what type of cells are there? Are RBCs there? No, not at all. RBCs are not at all there. What about the WBCs? Are WBCs there in the lymph? Yes, few WBCs are there in the lymph. So now, since WBCs are there in the lymph which is passing over the tissues can also help in defense of those tissues and the structures. So since WBCs are there, whatever number of pathogens and germs are there, they can always help in the process of eating up those germs, a process known as phagocytosis, or releasing chemical substances. So what is the second function that we understand about the lymph? It helps in defense. That's the second function. The lymph helps in defense. Third. Now, when I talk about the process of digestion of the food, digestion and absorption. Now, the digestion of the food, the different type of nutrients that we consume, carbohydrates, proteins, fats, we consume, they get digested in our body. The different methods of digestion takes place in the stomach, intestine, and now the complex food that we eat all gets digested. But the food is digested in the intestine completely. What next after digestion? The nutrients have to move into the blood. In short, whenever we talk about the process of digestion, after the process of digestion in the small intestine, are we benefited? No, we are not benefited unless and until the process of absorption happens. Then what is absorption? After digestion, the nutrients which are moving from the intestine towards the blood. From the intestine towards the blood, the nutrients have to move. from the intestine towards the blood vessels, the nutrients should be diffused. This process is known as absorption. So now, when I talk about after the process, whenever we are taking any meal, we are taking food rich in carbohydrates, proteins, fats. The carbohydrate and the protein part similarly gets digested and absorbed. Now, what did I say when I speak absorb? What are you understanding? The nutrients moving from the intestine towards the blood. Very simple as of now. In the next standard, next year, you are going to understand all these methods and processes in detail. But as of now, try understanding that if it is a method of absorption, what is happening? Nutrients are moving from intestine towards blood. And if it is a process of digestion, what is happening? Complex molecules getting broken to simple molecules. So if it is the carbohydrates and the proteins, the simplest molecules are moving from the intestine towards the blood, straight away towards the blood. And if it is the molecules of fat, can you name some food items rich in fats? Cheese and oil and food items rich in cheese, rich in fats. Similar categories be food items rich in fats, animal oil, vegetable oil. Give me one more example. Milk also contains limited amount of fats. The milk, the cream of the milk is fat. That's what fat is clear. It's not wrong. Don't try questioning it right away. What else? Good fats. Cheese is a good fat. Milk products, good fat. Oil, vegetable oil, some of them good fats. What else? What else? Ghee, good fat. So all these different type of fatty foods that we eat, these fats also get digested in our intestine. These fats also get digested in our intestine, and the simplest form of the fat, that is known as fatty acid, has to also get absorbed from the intestine. So now from the intestine, where do they go? From the intestine, they will not enter into the blood. They will first enter into the lymph, then they will be in the blood. But if it is the carbohydrate and the protein, they will enter into the blood straight away. From the tubes of the intestine, they can enter into the blood straight away. But if it is fatty acid, they can enter here first and then go to the blood. So with that respect, what is the third function of the fat? And a very important function to understand, we would say absorption of the fats. Absorption of the fats. And since it is in the fluid medium, we can also write distribution of nutrients. Distribution of nutrients. Now, when we say distribution of nutrients, what is the meaning? Distribution of nutrients here means that whenever we are talking about distribution of nutrients, remember, since the lymph is also flowing, we understand that whatever different amount of nutrients are present would constantly allow diffusion. Now, if I talk about the nutrients present here, and I'm saying the cells and the tissues are nearby, no? So, as the lymph flows, is it not certain amount of nutrients will get diffused? Yes, it will. So, these surrounding cells, they are getting small amount of nutrients from the lymph as they flow surrounding them. So, this is what we are talking about as distribution of the nutrients, absorption of fat. And the next is what? Defense and drainage. So what are the four functions of lymph we studied? The four functions of lymph. Number one is absorption of the fat, defense, drainage of the excess fluid from our tissues. And the fourth function is what? Distribution. The distribution of nutrients to certain parts of the body where the blood does not flow that profusely. Now, which are certain parts of our body where the blood does not flow that profusely? Certain parts of our body, certain few regions of our body where the blood does not flow that profusely are the toes. We talk about certain parts of our body, something like the back of the knee region, the blood vessels are compared to the mediastinum. The armpits, the blood vessels are comparatively lesser. So there are few regions of the body where the blood vessels are comparatively lesser, but still the process of, so those parts of the body, is it getting dead, is it getting drier, is it getting other cells dying out? No, because adequate distribution of nutrients still happening, because the lymph is also helping in the process of distribution. Take one question. Let us write 3 differences between blood and lymph. 3 differences between blood and lymph. 3 differences between blood and lymph. Write down the first point, blood and lymph. Make a table. You will make a table to write down the difference. Make a table to write down the difference. The first point under blood, write down. Blood is red in color. Due to the presence of hemoglobin. Blood is red in color due to the presence of hemoglobin. Blood is red in color due to the presence of hemoglobin. Next, other side, lymph. Lymph is colorless. Right, next one, number 2. Number 2. Blood composed of plasma, and 3 types of cells. Composed of plasma and 3 types of cells. That is RBCs, WBCs, and platelets. Other side, lymph, composed of plasma and few WBCs. Composed of plasma and few WBCs. Number 3, blood, closing blood vessels, lymph flows in lymphatic vessels. Lymph flows in lymphatic vessels. Blood, the continuous flow of the blood, is due to the pumping action of the heart. Continuous flow of the blood is due to the pumping action of the heart. Lymph, continuous flow of the lymph is due to the contraction and relaxation is due to the contraction and relaxation of surrounding muscles. Is due to the contraction and relaxation of surrounding muscles. Surrounding muscles. Surrounding muscles. Okay. Now this is volume 1. Now few more questions we will complete, and then the other day I asked you to complete that worksheet.
Yes.
No time. I asked you to complete this worksheet. Some few questions only I had asked you to do. Did you do? Huh? Yes. Are you sure?
Yes.
Always. Yes. One day and the rest all copy. How many of you copied? Nobody. अरे कॉपी नहीं किया खुद किया पक्का okay fine. Now the rest of the questions will just take overall revision. Fill in the blanks. I want you to do fill in the blanks and look into page number 117, number 11. Number 11, page 180, number 12. The other day we had done quite a lot of questions. Now we will just wind up with this. But that does not mean, again I repeat, these few questions I gave you today and the other day and the previous day, 3 consecutive days we have been solving questions. Still there are so many other questions left. Now these questions you are not supposed to just read them. You are supposed to, because quite a number of them are asked in a different way, the answers are same. You are going to go through every question. And you have a doubt, as in when we move on to the next chapter also you are supposed to clarify. So as of now, complete page 116, fill in the blanks. True, false, you will do as homework. 117, number 11 and 118, number 12. That's it.
Number 12 we have not done really.
That's right. The other day I must have given you as per the portion being completed, no? So now you complete the rest, so that becomes the overall revision again.
No, in the 12 one there are many terms here which are not done.
Which one?
Former secretary of column representative.
Epithelial tissues we have not done. So you just not what we have done.
Not done.
Squamous and all this we have not done. Okay. Then epithelial tissues will finish first. Hold on. Epithelial tissues, just few concepts to study. Epithelial tissues, nothing much. Once we have finished with this part of tissues, the 3 major part of the tissues are nervous tissues, muscular tissues, and connective tissues. Where there are a whole lot of diagrams, differences, all these. Epithelial tissues, majorly you get questions on identification. First of all, let us just look into some major properties of epithelial tissues. If I talk about epithelial tissues, what are you supposed to understand? What are you supposed to remember? These type of tissues either form the outer covering of an organ or of an organism. That's the first property always to understand. Epithelial tissues, the moment I talk about epithelial tissues, they majorly form the outer covering of an organ. So now as we enter into the different subtypes, we understand. Some of them they are forming the lining of the mouth, some of them they are forming the covering of the intestine, stomach, some of them they are forming the outer covering of the lungs, blood vessels, like this. But at the same time, the skin is the external covering of our body. Is the skin our external covering of our body?
Yes.
And this is again made up of epithelial tissues. So first I said that if it is the epithelial tissues, they are always the outer covering of an organ or an organism whole. What about the types of cells that we come across? In epithelial tissues, you will always come across, there may be certain type of tissues like this, which we are going to term them as cuboidal tissues, cuboidal epithelium. Certain type of epithelial tissues would be like this, tall pillar-like cells, which we are going to term as columnar. Under the concept of epithelial tissues, you are specifically to remember the location, function. That is the basic concept here. I talk about certain type of epithelial tissues. Columnar, they are pillar-like, but they will have some fine hair-like structures known as cilia. That is one type. We term them as ciliated columnar. There are certain type of epithelial tissues again, which will be columnar like this, but in between there will be certain type of specialized cells which are secreting certain substances, glandular epithelium, and certain type of epithelial cells will be there, which will have polygonal cells, and this is what we are talking about as squamous, which we are terming as squamous. And the last that we are talking about, certain type of cells which will be multi-layered, and they are very tough and forming the resistant cover of the skin known as the stratify. So 6 types of epithelial tissues. What are their names? First of all, get acquainted with their names. What are the names of the epithelial tissues? The 6 types of epithelial tissues, the diagrams, drawing you generally don't get, but identification you will get. The diagrams which are there in your textbook and also given in the volume, you should be very well acquainted with the diagrams. So make an effort to open your textbook and write down there only wherever you have written down epithelial tissues, the head in your notebook. Diagram study for all the figures. In your question paper, they will give you, always you will get questions, even in the unit test, you will get questions. The figure for the epithelial tissues will be there, and you will have to identify and questions on them. So which are the 6 types of epithelial tissues we are going to study? We are talking about tissues known as squamous. We are talking about tissues known as cuboidal. We are talking about tissues known as columnar. We are talking about tissues known as ciliated columnar. And next is we are talking about glandular. And what is the last one? We are talking about stratified. Take out your volume, all of you, and there's a simplified table that you're going to learn. Study from there straight away. Take out your table there. Which page?
109.
109. All of you turn to that page. 109. Turn to that page of your volume. Let us start with the first one. You will underline and remember to study this way. The first one that we talk about, squamous. What is the location? Inner lining of the mouth. Squamous. What is the location? Underline. Keep underlining. What is the location? Inner lining of the mouth. Yes. What is the location? Inner lining of the mouth. What is the nature of the cells? Polygonal. The cells are of different shapes. The cells are polygonal. You have to remember all these words. The cells are of different shapes. They are polygonal, right? What about the function? What about the function now? Always remember, the moment you talk about epithelial tissues, they will have basically 3 to 4 types of functions. So what are the common types of functions? When I talk about epithelial tissues will have functions either protection. This will be one type, but based on the location, you will easily remember. Once you know the location, you will easily remember the function. Protection can be there, or secretion can be there, or next is what? Absorption can be there, or transportation. So these are the 4 types of functions. Now let us try remembering the location. So I say inner lining of the mouth. What is the other location? Underline. Esophagus means the food pipe. So when I talk about the esophagus and I talk about the lining of the mouth. So what is the lining of the mouth? Now the inner lining of the mouth is made up of epithelium. What can be the function of that? Protection. So that is the protective function. And now I talk about the esophagus. What is the role of the esophagus? Food pipe, what is it doing? Transporting the food from the mouth to the stomach. So can we say it helps in transportation function? Yes. Understood this? So this is how you'll have to study. Come to the next one. Next type is stratified. Where is the stratified type of tissues present? The skin and the cornea. The skin. So when we are talking about the skin, outermost layer of the skin is stratified tissues and it is a dead layer of tissues, dead layer of cells. So what is this dead layer of cells doing? Not allowing excess water to go away by evaporation. That is one function. And not allowing the unwanted substances, germs, pathogens to enter also. Right now, on your surface of the skin, there are millions of germs sitting and dancing there. But all of them are not able to enter. Because every time now that he is rubbing his hands, quite a number of them rubbed away. Yes, not a joke. So every time now that we are rubbing our body, washing our body, cleaning our body, they get rid. But they have been here for quite a long time. How did they not enter? Because the outermost layer of the skin is dead. So they cannot enter that very easily. So can we say the stratified layer has got a protective function? The stratified layer has got a protective function. What is the other function for the stratified layer? Waterproof. So I already mentioned about the other function that now that they are dead, it acts as a waterproof cover. Meaning, if you are in the swimming pool for almost 1 hour, do you get bloated? No. Because this layer of the skin that we have, of course, has got other different type of cells which produce secretion, oily secretion also. But now that we have the epidermis and on top of that the oily secretion, that is what is not allowing the water loss and the water gain. But I talk about the raisins, put them in the water for 1 hour, what will happen to those raisins? They will swell up. But we will know. No? So exactly same like that. So when we are talking about this particular feature, acts as a waterproof cover. Underline that. You have to mention in your answer. So what is the job of the stratified? It also acts, it gives protection and it also acts as a waterproof cover. Go to the third. Columnar. Underline the locations. Inner lining of intestines. Inner lining of the intestines. And stomach. Majorly stomach and intestine. Majorly, what is it? Major lining of the stomach and intestine is enough for you to remember. Major lining of the stomach and the intestine. So this columnar, if it is present in the stomach and the intestine, what is the role of the stomach? Or the lining of the stomach, what is it doing? The stomach is not taking in food. The lining of the stomach, what is it doing? It is releasing different type of digestive juices so that our food get digested. What is the lining of the intestine doing? Releasing enzymes so that our food get digested. So can we say that the columnar has got some secretory function? Yes, because the lining of the stomach and the intestine very well helps in producing so many variety of enzymes and chemical substances, juices which help in the formation of simpler form of the food. Just now I was also talking a little bit about digestion and absorption. Columnar. What are the other functions columnar? Absorption. Did I talk about absorption a while ago? I was saying that if it is the kidney tubes, the absorption not majorly in the stomach, it is majorly in the intestine. In the intestine, what is absorption? I told you. Allow the intestinal nutrients. Now, if I talk about that, if it is absorption, then what are you supposed to understand? That if this is the intestine, now I talk about the stomach. I talk about the stomach, and followed by the stomach, we have got the intestine, and the intestine which is extensively coiled. But surrounding the intestine, what is there? Surrounding the intestine, we have blood vessels. Say suppose I talk about certain blood vessels surrounding the intestine, a whole lot of blood vessels surrounding the intestine, forming a network. So these blood vessels which are surrounding the intestine, if the nutrients are passing from the intestine to the blood vessel, this is what we talk about as absorption. If the blood vessel, this is the blood vessel, this is the intestine, nutrients are moving from the blood vessel to the, from the intestine to the blood vessel, this is absorption. What is the process of digestion? Breakdown. And what is the process of absorption? Movement from the intestine to the blood. What is the location of the columnar? Just now you have understood. Location of the columnar is the intestine, and and the stomach. Majorly these are the parts where digestion and absorption happen. So which are the two major functions to remember? The two major functions are secretion and absorption. Come to the fourth type. What is the fourth type? Cuboidal. Where is the cuboidal epithelium located? Kidney tubules. Lining of the kidney tubules and ducts of salivary glands. Now the ducts means tubes. Tubes of the salivary glands. Where are the salivary glands located? In and around the mouth, below the tongue, near this particular jaw region, and somewhere. So these different glands, the three different glands, they have got small tubes. The glands are secreting what? Saliva. And what are these tubes doing? Carrying the saliva and pouring it inside our mouth cavity. So when I say these tubes which are made up of cuboidal cells, cuboidal epithelium, what is the function that they are doing now? They are carrying the saliva and putting it and emptying them inside our mouth cavity so that our mouth cavity remains moist every time. Are they not doing this function? Absorption was what type of cells were doing this particular type of a function? Columnar. Columnar. So absorption was a function of columnar. Now we talk about cuboidal. Cuboidal basically helps in transportation as well as secretion. Come to the next type, that is ciliated, columnar, ciliated, glandular. Okay, glandular. What is about the common locations of the glandular? It will be the skin. It will be the skin glands, the sweat glands, also in the stomach. So if I majorly talk about the skin glands majorly the sweat gland. What is it doing? What is the job? Releasing the sweat. Releasing the sweat, meaning it is giving away certain substances. Secretion is its function. So when I talk about the glandular types, if it is the sweat gland of the skin, yes, it is releasing sweat, function is secretion. If I talk about the glands of the stomach, again, releasing different type of juices, function is secretion. Next is, what is the other function of glandular? What is the other function of glandular? Secretion, majorly secretion, and to some extent transportation also, majorly secretion. The last one that we talk about is ciliated epithelium. What are the locations? We can talk about locations in the nasal cavities, the nostrils, the nasal cavities, the trachea, that is the windpipe, and the kidney tubules and the reproductive duct. These are the common locations. So when we are talking about the ciliated epithelium, same like that, the fourth type that I have drawn there. What is so special about these type of columnar cells, ciliated epithelium? They have got fine hair-like structures known as the cilia, and this cilia can move, they can propel, they can keep lashing, Now just think, I talk about the trachea that we have. We are breathing in air, and these cilia are all here on the inner lining. So this kidney tubule, this trachea that I talk about, and the air that we inhale. And now there are these fine hair-like structures all over. There are those fine hair-like, millions of them. Now, if these hair-like structures are all, they are lashing and propelling, what is happening? They are all moving in this direction. They are all moving in this direction, which is allowing the air to move through this long tube in a very short period of time. So what type of function we are now talking about? Transportation. So these type of movements, the lashing movements of the cilia, wherever they are, in the reproductive tract you call it as, or the trachea you call it as, or the nasal chambers you call it as. What type of function? The basic function is transportation, and to some extent protection also, because now that I talk about the mucus secretion and the release of the mucus in the nasal passages and their movement into the nasal openings also trap unwanted pathogens and germs. They are also helping in the trapping of the unwanted pathogens and the germs. So also they help in the protective functions. Each of these 6 types, number one, you should know the diagrams well. Each one of them you should be able to identify which one is stratified, which one is columnar, which one is Ciliated columnar, which one is cuboidal? So basically, you have a confusion with the stratified squamous. Stratified squamous, you have to always remember, stratified is multi-layered, squamous is flat polygonal. Ciliated and ciliated and columnar, very distinctive. Then how is cuboidal and columnar different? Cuboidal is only small cube-shaped cells, columnar tall cells. That is how you should easily differentiate. How are you supposed to study? Always study like this. The basic locations are what and what are their respective functions. Only that is what is straight away asked in your exams. Diagram drawing for this, generally will not get, but identification. Next is for the animal tissues. Then if you are already done with animal tissue, epithelial tissues, I think with that animal tissues are all done. Is there anything extra in that chapter about tissues?
What is the name of the ball which prevents the HCl to burn out?
What is the
Name of the ball
name of the stomach wall?
which prevents the HCl to burn out?
The layer of the stomach. If you talk about the layer of the wall of the stomach, it has some definite names. The layer is known as the mucosa. That is the name of that layer. But basically, if you understand that the entire layer is covered, or there's a layer of mucus being formed. And since this mucus is always there, though the hydrochloric acid is there in the stomach most of the time, even if less amount of food is there, then the lining of the stomach does not get eroded, burnt, or broken down. But the layers are definite name. The mucosa is the innermost layer. So for tissues, I think we have covered all. About the process of cell division, little bit, that is the extra topic that we have to take up. The process of cell division. We'll not start now because mitosis and meiosis, the two types of cell division, their differences, it will take at least 15-20 minutes to go through. So that we'll have to take up the next class. But if you have already finished, what did you learn about this concept? What is cell division? What are the basic differences you have learned?
Mitosis parents and daughters
It remains the same. And what about their number? How many cells?
number also same.
Number. If a cell is going through mitosis, how many daughter cells will it form?
Two daughters.
Two daughter cells. And if it is meiosis, how many daughter cells? Four daughter cells. What about the chromosome? You don't have the details, just the basic number and the concept. You are supposed, and the status also not fine. Number of chromosomes. Chromosomes are what? Are you aware?
Yes.
What is it? How will you define what are chromosomes? What do they carry? What do they carry? I said they are made up of DNA. What do they carry? They carry genes, hereditary information. That is what you are supposed to write. What do they carry? Hereditary information. And the hereditary information can be in the form of genes. What are genes? How to define? Functional segments of the DNA that encodes a protein to regulate a character. For example, if I say why the color of the hair is black, why the color of the eye is brown, why the shape of the finger is something like this, and why the shape of the ear is something like this, is all because of the genes we carry a hereditary characters. So a little bit about that. Which type of cells will show mitosis? Mitosis will take place. It's a type of cell division. Can you give me an example of a type of cell that shows mitosis, or where mitosis will happen? Amoeba is a process of reproduction, but apart from that, we don't write example of amoeba. You have to write either animal cells or plant cells where mitosis happens. Mitosis will happen if I talk about animal body. Animal body mitosis will happen in the skin, mitosis will happen in the liver, stomach, intestine, pancreas, everywhere apart from the reproductive organs. In the plants, where will mitosis happen? In the leaf and the root and the stem and the flower, in the root and the stem and the fruit and the leaves apart from the flower. In the flower, the process of division is meiosis. Okay, so mitosis and meiosis basic differences you are supposed to know. Turn to a new page. By the time, if you have 2 minutes, turn to that page. I will give you the difference there about mitosis and meiosis. Do we have enough time to write out the difference? Time out already? Okay. So just remember in your notebook, write down that topic. After you have finished issues, please write down that topic cell division. We are yet to do. Otherwise, we will forget that topic. आज के जो और शीट्स
ना स्ट्रेस देगा
स्टार्टर चालू करा है कोऑर्डिनेट स्टार्ट में लगा है जस्ट कोऑर्डिनेट चालू करके जब भी हम लिख रहे हैं तो पहले कर देना था और ये वो टेप बनाया बेटा मैंने कुछ नहीं लिखा हो गया I really like all the letters all that तू प्रिंट करवा लेना like up on your Simpan kan, satu kap. Sure, Ale.